Welcome to Colney Talk Podcast.
Hello and welcome, good listeners. Thank you for joining me. You are listening to Colney Talk Podcast. I am your host, Alex. Another bite-sized podcast I have for you here today, talking about Arsenal games, picking out my top 3 players in the game, and one player whose level was not as quality as we would expect. If you're new here, welcome, and thank you. Or if you've been listening to the show, glad to have you back. Arsenal hosted PSV at the Emirates. This was the rescheduled game that we should have played. And more importantly, it is the pivotal game to secure top of the group and the relief of not playing that extra game. And it's game 6 of 9 in October, and Arsenal still holding strong with commendable wins. It was a 1-0 win, and this wouldn't surprise me with Arteta winning another Coach of the Month award. He's done a great job, accumulating these wins, trying to keep these boys in a good form as much as we keep counting these wins and seeing how they play, enjoy the performance to a satisfactory level. Not always the best at times, but that's the better outlook that we would want to have rather than anything else. And this was the first time Nketiah and Jesus were starting. I suppose we wanted to have a stronger offensive presence, seeing how PSV have been really sharp, scoring a lot of goals, winning so many games as well. So we're not taking these teams any less likely as maybe lesser teams in a sense. And an expectation of a tough match was what was coming in to this game. And I suppose, these PSV potent scoring reputation they had was what we were looking out for. So we controlled the game for the first 15 minutes in the first half. PSV tried to find themselves just getting into the game a little bit after that first 15 minutes. It started becoming a little bit of a pickup for PSV. We did have some early big chances in the box by Jesus and Xhaka, but after that it was an even game. PSV easing themselves gradually into the game, testing Arsenal out, making it even a balanced match where they try to get the ball forward and into our half and, make some shots on target and try to test things out of how their game plan was going to evolve. But we eventually flooded their half with great movement in the box. It was more of a patient game, and we really built back that on. And, the influence of Tierney on the left and how much he played and what he was doing, it caused problems on the flank. Whipping a number of crosses in the box. We just kept growing with intensity. And when we got to the final third, we kept getting real close in that final third. And we're getting much better as we're perfecting our dummy moves in the box, making that chemistry, the other players there, and those chances, those contributed to the chances that we missed in this game. We had 2 clear scoring chances just missed by a whisker or just a fraction off. These are encouraging signs that you see Arsenal display, that we're really trying to play clinical passes, swift moves, and clear shots in the box. And these dummy plays or movements attribute to that, but I guess it's encouraging to see some of these dummy-like movements happen in the final third, because it's more about the confidence of these coordinations with the players in the box and how they sync with each other in the passes, and kept playing that way in the first half, and that was good to see. In addition, Arsenal kept PSV's 2 main targets quiet in the game. This is another Arteta brilliant tactics on game planning, knowing how we had to shut out these channels that would come through to these players and cause more problems. But much of that had to do with Arsenal nullifying the channels of those passes coming to those 2 main targets and how they would have wanted to cause some problem in our box or attempt to score goals. We did a lot of those things to force them back in their own half. We did dominate possession to a good extent, but then they, again, as I said, seeing how it eventually, turned into a balanced game, they didn't really get so much of that influence in our box, although some good passes here and there from PSV gave them those chances. It was now a bit flat starting the second half. Saka and Jesus did well to bring back the spark with very good chances, but not quite as clinical as we would have, enjoyed or hoped to have seen, like with the dummy moves that was done in the first half. And that's not a good feeling. Jesus not having clean contact on the ball in the box, scuffing some of these passes or crosses coming to him was just not good feeling or something to just bring up. Normally we want to have these clinical, decisive execution in the box, and we didn't get that. Special mention to Eddie Nketiah in the game. He tried to add more pressure in front, just as Jesus typically would do, as we expect from him in most of these games. And Eddie Nketiah's addition or contribution rather to the game in front and trying to put more pressure as well was good to see. It was a good showing by number 14, and that's exactly how you hope to anticipate the outcome of the game from the way they were both playing. But in all, we were happy with the win. It's a 1-0 victory. Hopefully we should have gotten some more scoring chances, and it probably would have opened up the game a little bit more and given the players, I think, more freedom to display how good they are and that confidence in what they can do on the ball, because these missed chances make things a bit dull, make it a little bit flat, which it was, and maybe would have lifted their game up a level. But that's how we experienced this game. The performance as we kind of looked at it wasn't the best. But in that, the stand-up players for me in the game were Tierney, just tearing up the left flank, playing really good ball and whipping crosses into the box, doing a lot to, just keep that left back, just on his back foot a lot of times, because, Tierney is really fast, and the way he managed and moved the ball a lot caused quite a little bit of problem for PSV to handle. And it again gives the Arsenal players that urge to move forward in how they were mixing their passes to get into the box and try to have their scoring chances increase. So he did that for us, and he was that speed defender when we needed, when PSV pushed in our half. I think there were quite a couple of fast breaks that happened, and Tierney was there to kind of nullify it, or at least get to hold that ball back and get most of the defense back into shape and keep things real tight. So he's the first player for me. My second player is Big Gabby. Again, on the defensive side, he kept things steady at the back, sending very good passes to break the lines to help get into PSV's final third. Nothing shaky or rash or mistimed passes. He did have this calm effect. That's good. That's what we hope for from Big Gabby. As a center back, there's so much that we expect from them, and their contribution in building the passes from the back is really is so significant. So big credit to him. More importantly, his performance was very good defensively, and the way his passes were coming and cutting across lines was so good to see. This is how good we know Big Gabby is, and I know that there will be so much more of him to come with how he's already performing. So that was really great. And then my third and final player was Jesus. He sets up the tempo for Arsenal's press in the box. He had a number of shots. I mean, he worked so hard in the game. His attempts in the box lifted the level a little bit of the game. Yes, he should have put some of these balls in the net. He needs to be a little bit more clinical. That's the expectation. He expects that of himself, and it's great to talk about. It is great to mention these misses. This is how you get to hold him accountable in his output. This is how we try to look at his final play in the boxes. This is how he would take these notes back, and as he is training, he's keeping these things in mind. It helps keep him more focused, keeps him more conscious of how he needs to get better. So, he was one of my standout players and he is the third out of my top three, but I just think it's worth mentioning that as much as he works so hard, it's so much more pleasing to see these outputs, turn into significant results, which are goals or assists. So that's what we have there. The other player for me today was Vieira. He looked missing in the game. I did see this as a very high offensive, maybe high scoring game that would involve Vieira making several passes, doing so much of, Odegaard-like things, with controlling the ball, pushing the tempo, moving and causing a lot of that influence. He's not Odegaard, but he's just as good to do those things. He has these visions of sweet crosses and making things happen when there's a break. He was just missing. I thought I would see more of his offensive game. I mean, playing at home as well, this should have been another influence to show how much we should see of him, but I did not see that. Perhaps it will over time, but having played a lot of Europa games, I thought this would be another addition to level up his game and his performance and how he would contribute. And some of his passes as well, when he would get through, were not as sharp as it would, or losing the ball as well. It just kind of feels like there's a question there. there? Is he not ready? Is he still trying to get in the game? How much time does he need? I would consider giving him as much patience as possible, because this is realistically what we should give him to grow into the game with his confidence, with his timing, and his chemistry with the players. But there are some of the flashes of what we know and see how good Vieira is, to at least continue to shine or show in these Europa games, because that's where we've already seen him in the past do so. We didn't see that in this game, and that's why he's the other player for me today. Perhaps we would see that in the next game. So that's another bite size for you, my friends. My selections were Tierney, Big Gabby, and Jesus, and the other player being Vieira. I did really expect more from him, but that's how the games are. The nature of the games can always be very unpredictable on how things turn out. The bottom line is we're happy with the win, and we move on to the next. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please share with your friends and subscribe. We look on to our next Premier League game. Thanks for listening to the Colney Talk podcast with me. See you on the next one. Take care. Bye.